Hi, folks. Matthew Lanigan here with BayWa RE. I see people are still signing in, so we'll just give it a minute or two, and then we'll be here with our great partner, Solis. Thanks. Hi, folks. Matthew Lanigan here again with BayWa RE. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at BayWa. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be with us and our great partner, Solis. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get going. This will be recorded. It will go out on the monthly newsletters. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. If you haven't signed up for the YouTube channel, we'd love if you did. You can find this webinar as well as all our past ones. We will be taking questions. You'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there's an opportunity to place them in there, and we will do our best to answer them on the fly. Continuing education is really a big part of the culture here at BayWa, so we're happy to extend that to our customer base as well. And if I could just get a quick test to make sure that the question box is working, if somebody could just throw me a hi or something like that, it would be greatly appreciated. Perfect. Okay, so without further ado, we have Terrence Parker with Solis. Solis is one of our great partners. We deal with them all over the world, and really fantastic support we've been seeing here in the Canadian market. So without further ado, Terrence.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it very much. We are we are focused and really use BayWa around the world. They're a great partner for us, and I really appreciate the opportunity you're giving us to present some of the new residential things that we're doing here at Solis. And well, let's talk a little bit about that. How maybe we can optimize, not only what's going on with the equipment that you're installing, but then maybe looking at some of the margins and overall system install ease and no drama, that sort of thing. That's what we're looking for, I think. And I'll talk a little bit about Solis as an organization and what we're doing to provide service to all the Canadian market up here. We bring it up early in this presentation because we're proud of it. And we'll get into our residential string inverters, just a rock solid product, and the new residential storage inverters. And I really am kind of excited to talk to you about the hub. It's really a new product, I think, that gives you some real installation flexibility. And we'll talk, of course, about the cloud, a free monitoring platform for anyone installing our product. Bankability is a thing that Solis talks a lot about because we're a large company. We're number 3 in the world if you look at shipments. And well, we've made profit every year since our founding in 2005. So it's a strong company that well run. I like my boss, the CEO of the company, and I've been working with them since 2016. And you can see that we were awarded an EUPD award back then, and we've been getting that same award ever since. It's a nice quality product that we're using both in Europe and here in North America, as well as or South America, Australia, China and India. And the company was started in 2005. It's a Chinese company, but we got to the U.S. early. We got here in 2009, and we were actually the first UL listed Chinese inverter in North America. Kind of a nice factoid there. Uh, and I think the right in the middle there, you see that we became a publicly traded company in 2019. So if you were to Google our stock code, you can see it there. We're on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, and you can take a look at our company numbers. We're relatively open about that. That's why we think of ourselves as a bankable company. You can actually look at our quarterlies, that sort of thing. Um, you'll see actually that the company stock price has gone down a little bit because we're spending a lot of money on our expansion. We are expanding well, when I joined the company, we were a 5 gigawatt company, and you can see now we've opened up a new factory in Vietnam that's 4 gig, which almost matches what we were producing back then when I joined in 2016. But the company has been adding to its manufacturing capability, and we should be up near 100 gigawatts of capacity by the end of the year. And we're expanding past that, have plans to expand to 125. So the company's growing at a decent pace and servicing a global market. Um, yeah, I wanted to give you a little picture of our new factory. And there's a Starbucks in there. It's very modern, very a lot of robots and that sort of thing, speeding up and really maintaining quality. You can see that one of the unique features of this plant is that we do 100% burn-in of all of our products. That is, every inverter is put in a 44C room and run at 99% for a few hours just to make sure that when you open the box, the inverter is a running inverter. We are the manufacturer. We don't use contract manufacturers, and we can trace our quality right down to the component level, right down to the board level, and so it's a factory we're proud of. It's cranking out a lot of inverters and really maintaining those relationships with our suppliers and a discipline in quality manufacturing that has proven in many countries around the world that the Solis product is a long-term product. That here's a third-party, let's say, evaluation. DNVGL is quite famous as a third-party consultant, and you can trust their non-biased opinion, I think. But we were very proud of what they had said about our inverters, and we even considered a 25-year warranty on a PV string inverter, which is kind of unheard of. Although you can extend our warranties, if any of you folks, they come with 10-year warranties, and so you can then extend that warranty on our Solis Cloud app or on the website. And well, we feel very comfortable that the inverter is going to go through its warranty period and beyond. I might note that, as I said, we were the first one to get our UL listing in 2009, and we started installing these inverters with one of our white label partners, Sunrun, back in 2011, 2012. So we've still got single phase inverters that you're going to see some pictures of here in a minute, operating since 2012. They're still in the field. That's 14 years still through their warranty and still working just normally. So we can share that report under NDA, and it really does go through our global kind of processes and our manufacturing and our footprint and what we do in different countries, that sort of thing. It's a nice report for any of you into the financing of solar or TPOs, the third-party owned stuff. You may want to share that with your financier to give him confidence in the company. Here in North America, we've really built up the team. Like I say, we've been here since 2009, and when I joined in 2016, there was only 4 of us. But boy, we've really built up that team ever since. You see our CEO right there in the middle in the gray shirt. I work for Igor Mogilevsky. He's on the left-hand side there, and the rest of my application team. And really, it's just a wonderful team to work for. We brought in folks from all around the industry. That we have management teams, we have compliance engineering, which I do quite a bit of. We have a full marketing team, full management team, lawyer, accountant. So we've really focused on committing to North America. Um, and I think that's proven out in our response time to your calls. I'm saying that if you were to call our 866 number right after this webinar, you would get somebody on the phone. And you can see that it takes about a minute to get through our phone menu, but then the average call length is only about 5-10 minutes because, well, there's only about 28, 30 common error codes for our inverters, very few actually, and so our techs on the line typically know what to do with all 28 of those, either sending you to RMA immediately, let's say, if it's some particular error code, uh, or sending you to a video or an application note that's going to explain how to get that error code to go away, and so we I encourage everyone, if they have any issues with a Solis inverter, that they do call in to our 866 number because everyone is logged and every one of this is tracked. And so that way you can really, make sure that your issues are being worked on by our team. So even though you might have my number or somebody's from one of our teams and you want to give us a call, that's fine. We all love solar power very much here, and we got a great team to work with. I'm particularly enthused with solar. I've been in this business for 30 years, and so I love it. And I hope some of that comes through in this webinar. I want you to win, and part of that is getting good service, getting somebody on the phone, and making sure that your priorities are our priorities. Let's talk a little bit about our residential string inverters. So you can see all of these products are single phase with the one exception there that I wanted to include on this, especially Matt. I wanted to include a small 208 three-phase inverter here just in case we're looking at some ag sites. Of course, we have 480 volt stuff for agricultural sites and that sort of thing. But this is a nice compact small inverter that one person can pick up and hang on the wall. And it's a three-phase 208 inverter, but what I'm going to be talking about a lot in this presentation is the three you see there. The residential grid tie 3.6 to 10, we have upgraded that inverter. Although the form factor is very similar to what I was selling back in 2016, what we were white labeling to Sunrun back in 2012, this sort of product is so reliable that basically we just upgraded it to the new UL 1741SB certifications. We've upgraded the terminals to handle the bigger modules. There's new interoperability in these inverters due to this SA and SB upgrade that all the inverters did the past couple of years. And there's better safety and communication features in all of these inverters. So it's kind of nice to, even though those inverters might be still running after 12 years of service, the new ones are very similar, but just upgraded for today's grid. For Solis, we are excited about our hybrid because it's so versatile. There's so many ways you can connect this inverter up, and I'm going to talk a lot about that. It's a high voltage DC coupled battery management inverter plus a grid tie inverter. That's why we call it the hybrid. It's essentially two inverters in one, and you can set it up just as a regular grid tie inverter or set it up as just a regular battery management inverter or both. Now, in addition to the flexibility that just the hybrid gives you, being able to stack them, being able to operate them as a battery management or grid type product, now we introduce the hub. Because the residential inverters typically are connected on the load side, onto a breaker, into your breaker box. However, there might be a full breaker box there, or if you want to put in a big 11.4 with a 60 amp breaker, you might either need to derate the main service panel or maybe pull out some loads or something. But let's avoid that entire hassle and talk about a line tie connection in between your main service entrance panel and your meter. That's what we call the line tie connection. And that way we avoid having to put breakers into your service panel. We can tie all the inverters into the hub. We can tie your generator into the hub. And that way, your old service panel now becomes your dedicated load panel, and you have true whole home backup power. It's really something we see so much of, and what I think is going to be so attractive about this is that you can control everything through the Solis app on your phone. So if you're at work and maybe the power goes out at the house, you'll get an alert. Oh my, the power's gone out. Oh good, my battery is still full. Okay, it's a good sunny day, but it looks like it's gonna cloud up. I better turn off a couple of these heavier loads. And you literally have load shedding capability from your phone. It's exciting. And so I think it's that command and control capability is what's going to be so interesting for this new type of platform. And you know what? When this is a high voltage hybrid, and it really ticks off some of these boxes. You can AC couple, you can DC couple. Of course, you have partial home or with just the hybrids, or whole home backup with the new hub. Time of use, of course, is one of the biggest applications for adding a battery to your system. The costs are higher than they are with a typical PV only battery, but a PV only inverter. But indeed, you do get two inverters for one. You get both the grid tie PV only inverter plus a battery management inverter all in one package. And I might add, of course, that many times people put our grid tie product on a home or a building. You'll see we also have quite a few. If you were to go to our website, you could see we also have quite a few commercial inverters as well. And they may install that as a grid tie product, and then later on decide to add a battery, and they can AC couple that battery. And that's a decent way to go. But it's just a bit more efficient if you can attach the battery on the DC side, and certainly on a home, smaller type system, where we're talking something under 50 kilowatt hours, then we can certainly probably utilize the more efficient DC type of charging. So, be assured that all of our inverters have type 2 surge protection on both the DC and the AC side for, let's say, nearby lightning strikes or something like that, or some sort of anomalies coming in from the grid, or possibly some lightning surge that comes in through the DC side that will be arrested by those surge protection. And leakage current suppression has to do with, anticipating ground fault, that sort of thing. And then you might also notice that we don't use any fuses in our inverters because we always never put more than two strings in parallel with each other. So you can do that under the code. And so if we were to put 3 strings, we would have to fuse one of them. So we never do that. We only have 2 in parallel. That just reduces a little bit of the maintenance cost. And arc fault is standard. Arc fault is standard. This is both on a commercial and our resi. So you really want to, it's a nice thing to have arc fault circuit. This is, and we like to call it intelligent, because we're a bit proud of it. We've been working on it since 2014, right? And as I note, we are the manufacturer. We are the ones that build these boards. And we were having a couple of failures with it. So, open kimono here. We had some issues in 2014 and 15 with our arc fault circuit interrupt board. But over the years, we've been really able to improve that. And so now, if there is some sort of false signal or something like that, the arc fault board will note that, but that signal will have to come through at least 4 or 5 times before it will actually send you a fault. And so it's kind of intelligent in that it's not going to make you run out for every time there's a little issue that just resolves itself by the time maybe the array, warms up a little bit or something. You want to be careful with arc fault, issues. They can heat up those wires quite quickly. But with this intelligent arc fault circuit interrupter, you fewer false alarms. And then I'm also going to show you how you can kind of isolate it with our new DC
Terrence,
switches that, yeah,
we do have somebody asking, is the Solis Hub service entrance rated in Canada?
yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's a quick question because we knew right away that that had to be a service entrance product. So we got it listed as US Canada service entrance rated.
Thank you.
And indeed, it is a service. It essentially becomes your service entrance, Matt. I mean, because you're moving the big wires from your service, from your current service panel, your service load panel, and you're moving it to the top of the hub. The hub is a 200 amp pass-through component, and then your old service panel becomes your new load panel. And so, yeah, 200 amp pass-through on a that's what really gives you that whole home capability. Okay, what's next here? Oh, I really want, this is the product that I was telling you has been installed since 2012. Just like, it looks just like this. And that's kind of why we put that little plus signal up there. You'll see that on our website too, even though it's not actually in the new uh, model name of the product. And that's, I guess, a little bit confusing, but indeed, it's just been no drama for us. And so I hope that that is a benefit to you guys. Install and you can depend on it. And it's compatible with AC coupled, including the Powerwall 2. And like I say, been installed since 2011. We have optional integrated rapid shutdown transmitters in there and derating capability. The input terminals are big, so you can put those big modules on there. I had a guy the other day putting on a new I think it was a Jinko or Trina module of some sort, and it was putting out more amps than the inverter can handle continuously, but it wasn't exceeding our short circuit current rating, and so it was good. They were able to do it and really push this inverter. It can work all day, 100%. That's what it's designed to do. And flexibility is what we talk about when we talk about CapEx on Solis. Solis is proud to offer you an inverter at a good price, but we also have a lot of flexibility to ensure that you're, optimizing your PV array. That's the big dollar thing here. And so we not only should the inverter be very flexible and at a reasonable price, but you should be able to set up the inverter with the PV so that you're optimizing your customers' needs, but also optimizing your own margin here. Um, I always like to tell folks that all of the MPPTs, which you can think of as like string level optimizers, are independent of each other. That is, you'll connect the PV string to the inverter, then it goes through the DC switch, and then it goes through a blocking diode before it gets to the DC bus. And so that means that every one of the MPPTs in this, let's say 3 or 4, depending on which inverter you get, they're independent of each other. So you can string 4 modules on one and 11 modules on another MPPT right next door. And that wide operating range is going to give you the capability to really squeeze out power out of those four module string as well as the 11 modules. You also have a lot of flexibility when it comes to rapid shutdown. This is kind of a big deal in the US. We've been installing this module level rapid shutdown since 2019. And well, I'm very hopeful that we can come up with solutions here and take advantage of new, let's say, better fleshed out opportunities in 690.12, which is our rapid shutdown code, and the one that was telling us that, well, the best choice here is to use a module level product. But there's some new things happening in rapid shutdown, and one of them has to do with a new standard that's come forward recently. That's UL 3741. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's that flexibility of being able to use whatever string length you like, whatever rapid shutdown strategy you decide to use, and whatever monitoring solution you like. I like, of course, our Solis Cloud, and you get the most control over our inverters with Solis Cloud, but you get a heck of a lot of control with Also Energy as well, and Cashland. We love them both. They're used a lot here in Canada, and we can just send the Modbus map to either one of these companies, and you can map your inverter to their systems. And so, should you feel, that you're more comfortable setting up a Cashland monitoring solution for your customers, we're okay with that. Flexibility to reduce your costs to, if you're familiar with Cashland, you know how to hook that up. You're just going to spend less time configuring it, and that time is money. So it's that CapEx argument that's strong with Solis. We also have a very strong OpEx argument as well. Like I said, this inverter has been operating trouble-free for 12 years at many sites that Sunrun's installing hundreds of them. So we are very proud of that. And that it's that all-weather enclosure. You can put it anywhere you want. Simple LCD screen that you can do all of your commissioning right there on the screen. 3 minutes to commission this inverter. Before it even goes to its 5-minute IEEE timeout, you've already commissioned it, told it what time it was, told it what standard it's going to be operating on, make sure the AFCI circuit is operating, make sure it's set to 100% output, and you are done. So let's see what other. It's really the integrated revenue grade meters or rapid shutdown transmitters. It's going to make your systems go in a little faster. It's not an extra box on the side, and it's those 14 amp inputs that really allow you to use the biggest module that you see today. Now, the 30K, this is, again, a three-phase product. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it also is a very strong Type 4X enclosure. You can see it has the big AC switch right on the side. It's kind of unique in that you can remove that whole AC wire box. So if you got conduit attached to that, you just unplug your DC connections from the bottom and then do 4 screws and then just remove the inverter from the rigid in place held there by conduit kind of AC wire box. So it's fast swap out if you needed to. This one, of course, a choice, but it could also support 240 high leg if needed. All right, let's get into the meter. That's the residential. Okay, so when you look at this inverter, you can see it's offered in a wide variety. This is a grid tie product plus an energy storage product. It's native split phase, which is a little different than our residential grid tie product, which is 240. And I might also add that 208 product you saw, the other 480s and other commercial products that we offer only give you the installer line 1, line 2, and ground. And in our 3-phase, line 1, line 2, line 3, and ground. There's no neutral, with the exception of this product. This product here, our hybrid product, 3.8 to 11.4, has a neutral because it's natively 120/240 split phase. And so you'll have a line 1, line 2, neutral, and ground. It includes an internal PCS, power control. This means that you can go into the inverter and you can tell the inverter that I am on 100 amp bus bars in my breaker box, or I'm on 200 amp bus bars on my breaker box. And that way, if you already have, I don't know, let's say a micro inverter system and the homeowner's already put money into 20 solar panels or so into that, when the power goes out, this inverter will be a grid forming inverter. And that means that your microinverter system with the 20 panels can come back on. And it will then be feeding power into your load panel. And should the power from the hybrid plus your AC coupled other system is exceeding the bus bar capability, because this has PCS, it won't over exceed that bus bar capability. It'll go into what we call frequency watt mode, where it will start adjusting the frequency. And if that system is sophisticated, like some of the microinverter systems we see today, it'll start tailing off the power, And so in some other cases, if the microinverters or whatever else you have connected, an older string inverter, let's say, it'll just that once the frequency goes past the string inverter window, it'll shut the inverter down. But in many cases, it can just sort of start curtailing the power until the bus bar max rating has been getting close to, then it can shut down those other systems. So sophisticated what we're seeing today. And another thing about these hybrids, these transformerless inverters, gosh, I remember in the old days when we had big iron core transformers and they had good surge capability, and it was these high frequency switching type inverters that just didn't have the good surge capability. Well, now that's changing. And so you can see that although the inverter can put out 50 amps continuous, it can also put out 76 amps in surge for 10 seconds. That's good enough to start up most big central air systems under 5 ton. So it's a good feature to have and an interesting new technology that we're seeing deployed in these new string inverters. Um, IP66 again, again, integrated revenue grade meter. Again, like I say, this inverter is our grid tie product, and it just has the capability of having batteries as well. So DC or AC coupled, wide variety of different data loggers that you can attach to this product. You can attach a simple Wi-Fi or cellular, or hardwire it really right to the local router. Here you see 16 amp inputs. I mean, that's going to handle pretty much every module under 650 watts. And it's going to be able to take that amps continuous. As a designer, though, I always make sure that if under the worst conditions, please don't exceed my short circuit current capability, which is around 25 amps on these MPPTs. So you can really put those big modules on there. I might also add that you can stack 3 of these up. So if you are looking, there's your customer might want more power, so you could put more inverters in, or he might want more energy, days of autonomy, and so you can stack more batteries on a single or on two inverters. And so whether you're not your customer's looking for max, power output from this thing or he's looking for more energy in a security situation where he's using his battery to provide resiliency to the home, either way. And you got so many choices. And this is one of the messages that I want to bring out today is that you've got such flexibility with Solis. You can choose the batteries that are let's make they're available, right? And you can get your job done, 2 weeks from now because these batteries are available at BayWa. You can and if one's not available, maybe the other's available. And so we're saying that with a wide open the choice matters, that you have the opportunity to get that job done now because you have the opportunity to pair up our hybrids with a wide variety of different optimizers, different kinds of shutdowns, different kinds of batteries. You can stay agile and optimize your margin. Let's talk about the commissioning of these hybrids. That's a little different than commissioning of a pure grid tie product. And well, God bless all you installers out there who are installing grid tie for the last 10, 15 years. Now you're going to have to start installing these hybrids, I think, where folks are looking to or certainly asking you about batteries. And you could install this product, with just PV now and tell the inverter no battery during the commissioning. And indeed, that's just 4 or 5 minutes just to do that. But should you add a battery, you're going to have to additionally now tell the inverter what mode or operating mode you want it to operate in. And feed-in priority is the common mode that we used forever, where you could get 1-to-1 for your kilowatt hours that you sold back. But those days are ending, and there's not many jurisdictions that do that. They're best giving you maybe avoided cost or something like that, 3 cents as opposed to 11 or 20 or whatever you're paying. In that case, you might think about self-use mode. This is where your PV is going mainly to your loads, but then it fills the battery first rather than the grid, and it makes sure that that battery is ready for, let's say, more expensive rates later in the day, or you're anticipating a power outage because of bad weather coming or a fire or something like that. So you might make sure that make sure that that battery is ready to go should the power go out. And if you really want to tailor how that battery is going to be charged, discharged, that sort of thing, you go into this other section of the menu called backup mode, and you can really tailor how you want that priority to be for your battery, for your grid, whatever. And finally, off-grid. This is an off-grid product. Yeah, it's a grid following inverter, like I say, the standard grid type, but it's also a grid forming inverter. So off-grid, you could take our hub and make that kind of your main service panel, tie in your generator there, tie in your inverters there, and then have just a load panel below that, and so it's really a nice system for off-grid where now finally you can take advantage of these high voltage batteries. And of course, we understand the voltage limit, the temperature limitations of lithium-ion batteries, but there'll be cases where you're in a relatively remote spot, and there's some call for maybe a smaller footprint or just a bit more efficient battery. And this inverter gives you the opportunity to use those new lithium batteries in these very remote sites and off-grid sites. So it's just another option for you. And I just might note that we are coming out with new hybrids next year that are using a low voltage battery. And so we're sort of specking those out now, and we're curious to know whether or not you guys would be interested in something like that. As I note, this
Terrence,
hybrid.
we have a quick question here. What batteries do you have the 9540 certification, which makes it a proper energy storage system in the perspective of the Canadian Electrical Code?
Right. So if we were to take, let me just swing back to this page here. We have 9540 with Fortress, Pylontech, Soluna, BYD, LG. So we're working on Endure, Pikes, Dynas, and HomeGrid, and we figure that they'll be done by September. And so you can say that all of those products on there have UL 9540 compatibility with the Solis inverters. Now, Solis also, and I think as a consumer, and of course BayWa does this as well, is they look at whether or not the battery manufacturer has 9540A. And I know it's kind of confusing in that one is 9540 and the other one's 9540 with a little A at the end, but that's important. That difference is the 9540 compatibility test. That ensures that your battery and your inverter can work together. The 9540A test is something like Matt would look at to say, hey, is this battery manufacturer a quality battery manufacturer? Because in order to pass 9540A, that's a thermal runaway testing. So you got to have your enclosure and your batteries and everything all set up, your BMS, so that when it does catch on, if it ever did, that it's not going to run into a thermal runaway situation where it's going to be hard to put out for the firemen. So it's, in my opinion, very important that you look at your battery products that you're thinking of pairing up with your Solis inverter and see whether or not that battery has that 9540A solution, because I think it just provides me with a little bit more confidence that that battery manufacturer has really put their product through the ringer to make sure that it's safe for my home. I want to talk a little bit about some of these companies that were these little module level power electronics that are coming into the market. It's a real entrepreneurial market, and in the old days, we just had the duopoly, let's say. I think folks that kind of know who I'm talking about there. But now we're seeing these new players, smaller, aggressive, entrepreneurial, providing these new products to add to your system to add value, to match a customer need. The flexibility of this platform is amazing. You'll get a little smart meter inside of your inverter box, and it comes with a couple of CTs along with the hybrid inverter itself. And in this situation, you really don't need to install the smart meter, because in this situation, you're just using the hybrid as a grid tie product. Maybe the folks aren't quite ready to invest in a battery yet. Maybe there's a supply chain issue and you couldn't get a 10K grid tie, so I'm going to put in a 10K hybrid. It's price to pay for that, but at least you got the job done. And you can just use it as a grid tie inverter if needed. But you could also use it as just a AC coupled battery management inverter. In Michigan, we like to have that sump pump backed up because maybe we go on vacation, there's a big rain, my basement might flood. And if I'm home, I can start that generator. If there's a power outage, I can start that generator, make sure my sump pump works. But I can't go on vacation otherwise, because I got to make sure that sump is backed up. And so this is a great solution for that. You can add a small battery, our hybrid inverter, put it on, dedicate that to that load, the backup port, this inverter to that backup load. And in this case, you'd like to install the energy meter, because that's going to tell you what contribution you're getting from the grid. And of course, in this case, the contribution is going to be 100% charging the battery, because you don't have any PV. But then later on, you can add PV. And then, so now you got a battery and PV solution here, and you're backing up your off-grid loads. And so, like I say, you can set this up very simply for a small cabin. You can send 50 amps to those backup loads from a single inverter. If you need to stack the inverters, you can, but this is the simplest, nice off-grid solution. You'd be using a high voltage battery in this case. Now, this is kind of the classic application for a hybrid inverter, where you have loads that are pulled out of the home load panel and put into the backup load panel. So when the power goes out, the power is cut to the grid, to the home panel, and is then dedicated within 10 milliseconds to the backup loads. And so it's almost instantaneous switchover to the backup loads. And it'll run as long as you've got sunshine and batteries. It could be indefinite, right? Because it potentially is off grid at that point, even though it's not quite. It's disconnected from the grid, and essentially it is off grid. Maybe you need a little bit more power. You can, on the load side in your main panel, you can stack these inverters, and that'll now give you almost 100 amps into your backup panel, which could be whole home for most folks, a lot of folks, right? But a 200 amp panel is most common, so it's not quite whole home. It's still what we would call partial home or near whole home. And two things I wanted to mention in this drawing are those two blue dotted lines. One of them is a communication line between the inverters, so that they can coordinate their power going into the backup load panel. You don't have to worry about unbalanced loads, this many 120s and this many 240s. The inverters will deal with that. And then the second thing I wanted to mention there was the system emergency off button. You can have a remote button that's out near the service panel, and you can hit that button. And although that would act as your PV module rapid shutdown solution, or PV module shutdown initiator switch, it's better than that. And I think this is what the firemen are going to be looking for. They don't want to just shut down the PV modules or put them into a safety voltage state. They would prefer that you shut down the modules, the inverters, and the batteries, because that now is a bit safer for them to work around. So, I mean, you can imagine it's a bit of a situation when, I've rapidly shut down those modules up there on the roof. Okay, fine, but the inverter is still operating and still providing power to the backup panels, and so there's live wires still in that home. So having a button to shut it all down is something we think fire folks are going to really love. Okay, so the hub. The hub is really technically called a microgrid interconnection device. It's under 705.7. But it essentially is on the line side of the main service panel. So now you've got a whole home solution, 200 amp main, service entrance rated, got its own controller and energy meter inside, and all of the CTs are pre-installed. You can parallel connect as many as 3 of these guys and put on a 25K generator that has also the control terminals, the ground and the 24 volt, I think it is, 24 volt terminals, so that you can control your generator from your phone. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I'm command and control. Simple to install. It's just like a service panel. It's about that size, I might say. It's got a big door on it, so it's easy to get in and out of. And you can really organize your entire PV battery backup solution via the hub. It just makes it a faster, easier install. And you've got this I like to call it a virtual ATS, right? Because you can now avoid having to install an ATS for the installation of your generator. Right there, you're saving probably $1,000, right? Because this acts as an ATS. I say virtual because it doesn't have a traditional clunk, clunk, clunk Y switch on it, right? It actually is still connected to the grid. It's just not sending any power to the grid. It's monitoring what's going on with the grid. So it's not a true ATS, but it acts as one, ensuring that the generator is not going to backfeed into the panels and the panels aren't going to backfeed into the generator. It's all set up so that you don't have to think about it. And it gives you the opportunity to really service those big houses. Stack 3 of these into the hub, 150 amps continuous, set of 100 kilowatt hours of battery, right? So tying in your generator, you really can provide some excellent security and resiliency to the biggest homes. Now, compliance to 690.12 is very interesting, and as Matt noted, I'm down here in Lethbridge now. I'm close to the U.S. border, and we are, thinking about both string level rapid shutdown and module level rapid shutdown, and we can do both at Solis. Should you run into a situation where you need module level, a lot of our inverters that come into BayWa are all APS smart inverters, meaning they have the internal transmitter already in them. So if you want to do module level rapid shutdown, buy the receivers from BayWa, and then you can go module level all day long. Satisfy your inspector, that's fine. And you can do some fancier stuff too. I mean, if you wanted to do some optimization, for example, you could set up a SolarEdge-like system with Solis inverters using the classic CCA from Tygo, right? And as I note, there's these new companies out there like NEP that's offering kind of a little bit better rapid shutdown because it also offers monitoring and it has a heat sensor in there to give it the installers and the guys who are monitoring the solution, give them the capability to say, uh-oh, that one's getting a little hot. We better check that out. UL 3741 is extremely popular in the United States, and let's just get to the point.
Aaron, sorry, we get a couple of quick questions. One is ATS means what?
Automatic transfer switch. An automatic transfer switch is commonly installed with a classic Generac or whoever Honda generator. And you connect your generator to the automatic transfer switch. And so when the automatic transfer switch senses that the grid is going down, it literally has a Y switch in it. And you'll hear it go cha-chunk, and it will literally switch over to your generator, physically disconnecting from the grid so that now your generator comes on 15 seconds later, it starts supplying power to your home panel. And yeah, you're going to have to reset your clocks and all that, but now you got continuous power from the generator. And so that ATS, as soon as the grid comes back on, it'll chunk back away from the generator and reconnect you with the grid. Automatic transfer switch. And the hub essentially acts as that switch. It detects when the grid goes down, and so it switches over to the generator. Or, when it senses that the grid is come back on, it shuts the generator down and switches back over to the grid. So it acts just like it in virtual, using electronics rather than using a big iron switch. And UL 3741 is interesting, and let me just get to the point. Using UL 3741 because it saves money. Is 1 to 3 cents per watt as opposed to, let's say, 7 to 9 cents per watt. So that's the reason. But the interesting thing about UL 3741 is that the firefighters participated. They were the one. So UL 3741 is not only about the equipment that we use for rapid shutdown, it's also about the firemen and the techniques that they use around fire. So it's very exciting for the solar industry to really have the firemen participating and now not so afraid to work on buildings during the day when there's a lot of potentially some power coming in from the PV. So this is a real a synergy now between the solar industry and the firefighters across North America. It's really quite exciting. And with UL 3741, you can really simplify your rapid shutdown solution by just putting the inverter right there within the PV array. And of course, that might be a little bit tough on a residential site. That might work on your commercial, but residential, we got new solutions where you don't have to put the whole inverter up there. You just put the switch up there and locate the inverter where you want. So lots of new solutions coming forward for rapid shutdown. And I hope you start hearing about this UL 3741 here in Canada a little bit more because, well, I mean, you have an opportunity to really save some money here, but you might also need to kind of introduce this to your inspector or show him, how you put together your own PV hazard control system. So I hope you get an opportunity to use it because I think there's some real money there to be made, to be saved, margin to be gained. These are our simple communication dongles or data loggers, I guess is a more official name for them. And they're plug and play, they self-powered, self-configuring. So it's super easy to install and you can get them in either classic Wi-Fi or you can get it so that it has a combination of Wi-Fi and a connection for a hard wire on the bottom of it. You can see that WL version actually has a little cord grip on the bottom for a Cat5e cable that you can plug right into an RJ45 jack. And then finally, we have a cellular stick. So this cellular stick can connect to LTE or GSM towers, either way. And so it can come with its own SIM card, its own 5-year plan or 10-year plan. So you've got real flexibility when it comes to bringing the data off of the inverter into Solis Cloud. And all of those data loggers will point that data right into the free Solis Cloud platform. And you can see here on the desktop, you have full graphing capabilities, that sort of thing, and you can do it on your phone too. You'll get a standard display like this showing you exactly what's going on. And as I note, you got full control over your inverter, battery, PV, generator, and how you're connected to the grid. And I've just provided a few notes here, a few links that you can go to, and you can watch a couple videos and really get into what you can do with the platform and how you can optimize it for your own benefit and for the benefit of your customers.
Terrence, we have another question here as well. What's the range of the Wi-Fi device?
If you're in a metal building with metal framing, that's a bit of an issue. You're going to have to put your Wi-Fi device closer to the window. And but in a typical home with residential windows and doors and things like that, that's about 50 meters, I would say, confidently. It's I think rated to 150 meters, but you would have to really be on flat open ground, I think, for you to reliably connect with Wi-Fi that way. So in those cases, we would typically put somewhere in the middle a little Wi-Fi booster, just to make sure that Wi-Fi signal can make it from let's say the barn, where you got the system installed to the house. Yeah. Here's interestingly enough, Matt, that cellular stick, we call them, that's sort of our nickname for them, that has a Wi-Fi option as well. So you can set it up as a Wi-Fi stick, kind of an expensive Wi-Fi stick, but should the Wi-Fi ever go out, then within 2 minutes it'll switch over to cellular, so you're not losing any data. So it's very versatile in that respect. And so if you're in a situation where you've got good Wi-Fi and you set it up, but you can't lose any data, you would definitely want to invest in the Wi-Fi cellular stick. So you can set that stick for pure Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi cellular, like I say, which is the interesting piece, or just pure cellular if there's no Wi-Fi on site. That answer the question, Matt? Choice management, yeah. It really does. It's really about being able to.
Get a couple other questions flowing in here. Yeah. Is the data logger CSA approved? We know it's mandatory.
CE approved and has FCC class A and B 115, I think it is. So,
and then
data logger we use around the world, so it should be okay. But it's not CSA today.
Okay. If you have a bank of inverters and if you want to hardwire, do you have to hardwire all of them or just one?
You can just hardwire one and then daisy chain the others to it. And we have on the hybrid, there's actually RJ45 jacks in the hybrid. You can daisy chain the inverters together up to 10, and then just use a single data logger. That's good, huh?
Awesome. Any other questions, folks? It's a great opportunity while we have Terrence here on the line. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, so I think we'll call that a wrap. Thank you very much, Terrence. Really appreciate that. Terrence and Natasha from Solis are actually running around the country right now and currently are in Alberta, seeing a lot of our vendors, so really appreciate that. Just a couple of things before we go. Oh, sorry, there's another question. Is there an SLD for the hardwiring multiple inverters?
Well, I can create one, but it really is all about a Cat5e connection to that WL data logger that you plugged into inverter 1. And then you're just going to run Cat5e cable from the innie of one inverter to the outie of the next door neighbor inverter. So it's fairly simple, but I can put something together.
Okay, great. And Cameron, just reach out to us. We've got a very good relationship and we can easily get a hold of Terrence for you. We got a couple more. Does the 30K need an enclosure around it if it's mounted outside in the elements?
No, it's a Type 4X IP66 product.
Great. And another one here. Do they integrate with the EV charging at all or the V2H?
No, we're not seeing that yet. We're working with a couple, like I say, we're seeing such great entrepreneurial activity in the industry now. One of them is in car charging. And so we're looking at different ways to couple the charger to our system, whether or not there's a capability to do it on the DC side, which would be a bit more efficient, or tie it to the partial home backup panel, for example, on the AC side. And so today, you can attach a standard EV charger to your home like you would any other system, but you're not going to be able to use that battery in your home yet. We're working on that through the Solis Hub. We think we can add the firmware that will allow that to start happening, but look for that coming up here in end of the year 2025. It's an exciting let's say opportunity for folks who want to save a little bit money on their home battery, right? I mean, heck, they spend so much money on their car battery, and if they can kind of share the load, during power outages or something with their car battery and home battery, that would be great, wouldn't it? So yeah, we're excited about how folks can optimize, the investments that they've made in their electric vehicles and in their home system.
Excellent. So once again, just a couple of things before we go. If you're not signed up for our web shop, please do. We'd really appreciate it. You can find all the Solis specs, pricing, install manuals. You can also see your orders, pay orders. It's a very powerful tool that we've been spending a lot of time and effort on. This was recorded. It'll be up shortly on YouTube and come out in our newsletter here in about a week. If you have more questions, please just give us a call. Our team is well versed with the Solis product, and we have a great relationship with Solis, and they have fantastic technical support as well. So once again, thank you, Terrence. Really appreciate you being with us, and thank you everyone else for joining us, and hopefully everyone's staying safe out there with all the fires that are going on right now. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks for joining, everybody. My pleasure, Matt. Look forward to the next